Chapter 26. My Place. My name, a slot in my demon system that has been empty this entire time. What a question. My eyes look into the dark sky, a sight filled with so many little lights. The rain splashed down on my face, and the massive world that floated above shone brighter than before. My eyes sparkled as I looked into the beautiful sky. Flashes of light lit up the world, and with them, loud booms followed. My hands reached up into the sky, grasping at the massive rock. My hand clamped close and my eyes sparkled. Pulling my arm back, my chest felt lighter and a giant smile appeared on my face. What are those small lights? The man looked at me, confused for a moment before following my gaze into the night sky. Those are stars, and that big planet there is called Clara Astrum. They are all celestial bodies that float in the endless darkness, the man explained. My eyes glowed as he told me. They looked up at the sky once again. Stars, beauty, endless. Visions of the massive star that I saw flashed through my mind, that giant planet, the massive prison of black. The abyss was truly magnificent. It is never-ending. A blaze ignited in my heart, my eyes focusing on Clara Astrum. I want to go there one day, I said while pointing at the massive planet. The man sighed. Dream big, kid. Looking into the sky, my heart raced. This place was full of adventure, full of pain, full of peace. This is my place. This is where I want to be. This is my home. I'm Luna, and I live on Clara Astrum. That was my name, Luna. It reminds me of the stars, that's why I chose it. It symbolizes that I am bigger than what I seem. From far away, I'm small, but inside I hold much more. The man looked at me and smiled. Hey there, Luna. It's a pleasure to meet you. I smiled back, showing him my perfectly white teeth. It's nice to meet you, too. The commander and I chatted for a little longer. I asked him about many things. According to him, the giant ball of fire in the sky is called the sun, but in reality, it is just another star, one that is far closer than the others. He told me about the world we lived in and about other realms. This realm was known as Clara Astrum, and we were on the continent of Aurolian, in the kingdom of Alarion. The other realms are Celestria and Mortus Lux. The commander spoke fondly of Clara Astrum, describing a world full of adventure. He spoke about the diversity of Clara Astrum and how many races thrived on it. The elves, dwarfs, humans, lizardmen, beastmen, and so many more. The commander stated that Clara Astrum was a massive planet, home to endless plains, mighty forests, vast oceans, scorching deserts, terrible marshes, horrid badlands, and mighty mountain ranges. He reminisced about his glory days and how he traveled across the continent, searching for fame and treasure. He spoke of the elven kingdom of Astrael and how he was chased out of the capital, Astrolith, after stealing a relic he found within the palace. He mentioned that he was invited to the dwarven kingdom of Cosdrum, and that was where he had hand-forged his battle axe in the capital, Grimhold, at one of the city's ancient forges. He continued to speak about all his adventures and how he ventured through many of this continent's lands, including the lands of the many beastmen tribes and the lizardmen kingdom of Zarkesh. He laughed as he told me a story of how he almost drowned in their capital city, Zalthun. Chuckling, the commander moved on, speaking about a time when he was a mercenary for a massive city called Stormgate. He spoke about how the city stood as a pillar between the human kingdoms of Alarion and Valthorn. Stormgate was a massive city in Alarion. People spoke of how the city would never fall. The commander's face hardened as he told the story. They said the city would never crumble, but that was until a massive beast appeared. It towered hundreds of meters into the sky. It had wings that rivaled the size of mountains and impermeable scales. A fire dragon. In a single night, the monster reduced Stormgate to ashes. He spoke about the blazing fire, the screaming, and the blood. He shivered for a moment. He said that he was lucky to make it out of that hellscape alive. That was his final adventure. He settled down in Lumiere, married, had 2 daughters, and lived a good life up until recently. According to him, around 10 years ago, his wife passed away from illness, and he was left to raise his 2 daughters all by himself. He said that when she had died, Bella was only 14, and her sister Angie was 8. Earlier in the week, his youngest daughter was in the forest by herself, picking herbs to bring back to Lady Leora. Angie was working hard to become an apprentice, but while picking herbs, she stumbled upon the Aurelian frenzied bear and met a gruesome demise. The commander said that they found her intestines hanging in the trees, with each of her limbs spread across the ground. When they found her head, they noticed that the beast had ripped out both her eyes. He blames himself for Bella's death, as the rage that consumed the commander was the reason the hunting party was formed, which cost his eldest daughter her life as well. While speaking, his hand gripped the window frame hard, causing a massive crack to appear where he was holding it. His breathing accelerated for a moment before calming. He breathed out and closed his eyes before moving on to the other realms. Celestria. According to the commander, he knew little about Celestria, only that it was a realm no one had ever visited. The only well-known fact was that it was home to the angels, a race of mythical beings with divine power. People say that if an angel ever descended into Clara Astrum, it either means the beginning of a new era and the end of the old one. Apparently, they are fierce warriors with wings of light that could pierce the mightiest of creatures. Rain fell harder as his face grew sad. The final known realm is Mortu's Lux. My mind wandered as he spoke the name, my stomach tingling, and my heart began to race. It is the cruelest of worlds, a desolate landscape filled with horrible monstrosities. Death, pain, and demons are all that wander in that blood-soaked hellscape. My eyes widened, the word demon replaying itself in my head. Are demons as bad as you say? I asked. He looked at me, pity in his eyes. Kid, you can't even comprehend how terrible they are. He grasped the wooden frame even harder. I've only faced one in my entire life. Luckily, it was just a fledgling. But that day was when my world changed. He took out another roll of herbs, lighting it and taking a puff before speaking again. I traveled the world with my companions, spent years with them by my side, but on that day, that accursed day, they were taken from this world, taken from me. Raising his head to the dark sky, he closed his eyes as water soaked his hair, and droplets flowed down his face. His slicked-back hair was drenched, making his forehead shine. It was terrifying, kid. A devil that stands 3 meters tall, with long, jet-black horns that protrude from its head, wings of bone, skin the color of blood, and eyes that burned crimson. A creature that you would only see in your worst nightmares. Taking another puff, he let the smoke curl into the night sky, disappearing with the wind. First to fall was my friend Frank, head ripped from his shoulders, arms torn from their sockets. His voice cracked slightly as he continued. Next was Jenna. Her arrows never missed, but that day was the first time they were ever blocked. The demon grabbed the arrow midair, sending it flying back at her, piercing her heart and ending her life in an instant. He reached over and stroked something inside his room that I could not see. The last one was my own brother James, a great battle mage. We fought like true warriors, working together as a team. The fight seemed in our favor until he ran out of mana. His mouth trembled, and his hands shook. The only reason I'm here today, kid, is because of him. He fought through the exhaustion, through the pain, casting one final spell that trapped the demon in place for a mere moment. But that mere moment was all I needed to bury my axe in its neck. I still remember the sound it made as my axe cut through its flesh, its scream a fearful, blood-curdling scream. He sighed. We won that battle, but I was the only one who survived. My brother used the last of his life casting that spell. The commander coughed, covering his mouth with his remaining good hand. So, kid, if you ever see a demon, run as fast as you can in the other way. Don't look back, don't stop, just keep going. The man puffed again, releasing smoke and looking into my crimson eyes. You have the eyes of a demon, but the spirit of a true survivor. So, kid, survive, fight for who you love, and most importantly, fight for yourself. Looking at him, my heart raced, my body jolted, and, looking down into the darkness, I gave the man a silent nod. I knew demons were fierce creatures. I knew that some were not all good, but never did I realize that they were cruel. Am I cruel? Will I make people suffer? Breathing for a second, my mind calmed down. Yes, I will. That is the nature of this world, and if I need to hurt others to keep myself and the people around me safe, then I will not hesitate. Looking at the man, I opened my mouth, but before speaking, the commander cut me off. Hey, kid, it's been a long night. I think it's time to call it. The commander blew smoke out one more time before using his thumb to extinguish the flame. He tossed the burnt herb roll into the darkness before looking at the sky once again. The sky whitened as another bolt shot through it, a roar following behind it. The rain pattered against his face as he breathed a deep, long breath. Looking at me, he smiled. Sleep well, kiddo, he said, before walking away from the window and closing it. The man was gone, leaving me alone with the rain once again. The cold wind blew through my pure white hair, leaves rustled and puddles danced. The world was so chaotic, but also so peaceful. Looking at the world, I breathed out. As time passed, the rain lessened, and the roars faded into the distance. The sky was begging to glow, and songs full of chirps filled the soaked village. The lanterns began to fade as, over the horizon, the sun appeared, casting an orangish-yellow glow across the land. I watched as it rose over the massive trees that surrounded the small villages. People began to walk down below, a few even waving at me, which I returned with a big smile and a wave of my own. My eyes flowed over the bustling morning activity before I was knocked out of my trance. At my door, someone knocked. Hearing the noise, I quickly closed the window and ran to my bed, hopping into it. With a loud click, the door opened wide, revealing Matt standing there. Ready to go. Chapter 27. Yummy. Matt's smile turned into a frown as he saw how drenched I was. You can't go out like that, he said as he pulled me out into the hall. Come on, let's get you some new clothes. If you impress the people, it's more likely one of them will take you in. We walked down the hallway towards the room that I had snuck into before. Opening the door, Matt walked over to the big wooden box and pulled out a new set of dry, clean clothes. Put these on and meet me outside, he told me as he left the room, closing the door behind him. Looking at the clothes that I had grown so accustomed to, I frowned. Slowly, my hands went to the base of the linen pieces, grasping their wet seams. Pulling the shirt up, a cold sensation washed over me as the piece of linen stuck to my skin slightly. Lifting my arms, I pulled the top piece off with a final tug, dropping it to the ground. The ground was wet where the top lay. Looking down, my eyes examined my body. I never really had time to look at myself before, always too busy trying to survive. I was quite beautiful compared to the other females I had seen. My skin was flawless and smooth, my hands traced against it as if they were rubbing against a perfect, pure surface with no impurities. The curves on my body were graceful, a perfect, soft, feminine frame. Feeling along them, my hands reached my flat stomach. They ran along the part before moving up. My chest was completely different. It was fairly voluptuous. My hands moved up to my face, feeling its features. I could not see myself, but I could feel how symmetrical and perfect each part of me was. It was as if my face had nothing but perfectly elegant, refined features. My bone shapes were amazing, my skin texture was outstanding, and the size of each was just perfect. Moving up, my hands grabbed my hair. It was soft and lush. It feels between my eyes, allowing me to examine its color and texture even more. Pearl white that flowed with elegance and beauty. Moving my hands from my head, I found the edges of the lower piece I wore. It was not as wet as the top piece, but it still contained a little water. Holding the sides firmly, I tugged them down, sending them to the ground. Pulling my legs out of them, I tossed them atop the other piece of the set. Looking down at my lower half, I was amazed. Something that I had not noticed before stood out to me. Other than my head, there was no other speck of hair on my body, which is why my skin was so smooth and luxurious. Feeling my lower half was like feeling glass, cold yet calming. My legs were athletic, and my muscles were defined and strong. I had nice, rounded hips that enhanced my figure. Crouching down, I looked at my feet. They were as smooth as the rest of me, but my toes were perfect, all the perfect length, with nails that were all symmetrical and well polished. Taking my time to look over my figure, I heard a knock echo from outside the room. "Are you okay in there?" Matt asked through the door. Looking around in surprise, I shouted out, "Yes, I'm fine." The answer seemed to satisfy him as the room went silent once again. Quickly grabbing the clothes he picked out, I put them on, starting with the top and then the bottom. Figuring out how to put them on was not that hard, as all I did was do the opposite of what it was to take them off. The two pieces were quite nice. The top was much more comfortable than the last one I wore, and this time it covered the entire length of my arm instead of just a little way down. The bottom was also much better, being a full-length piece that draped down to my ankles. Wearing these two pieces made me feel much warmer now that less of my skin was showing, only my face, hands, and feet. Breathing out, I walked towards the door. Pulling on it, the door opened. On the other side awaited Matt, with a big smile on his face. "Look at you, looking great." "Thank you," I replied shyly. As he started walking down the hall, the man signaled for me to follow him. With a quick skip, my legs exploded forward, allowing me to catch up quickly. After a minute of walking behind him, we had reached the staircase that I had not made it to last night. Walking down the stairs, I was amazed by the sight. Down there was a massive room with people bustling around. There were chairs set up in neat, orderly lines, filled with people of all ages. There was a desk with 3 people sitting behind it, seeming to direct everyone where they were supposed to go. They either pointed towards the hallways or back at the chairs, depending on where they were pointing. The people who spoke to them followed. Some took seats, while some disappeared into their own unique rooms within those hallways. As we reached the bottom, a woman walked up to us. She pulled Matt aside for a moment and began to whisper into his ear. All I could make out of the conversation was, "Is that her?" and, "Poor girl." She was pitying me. I'm not some defenseless girl who needs pitying. Sighing, I looked away, examining some of the people in the room. There was an older man who seemed even older than the commander. He had black hair, a rather large, round body, and a limp as he walked. He moved from the desk back into one of the many chairs. When he got there, he seemed out of breath, and after a moment, he began to cough violently, spitting up some mucus. Looking away from the sight, my eyes looked upon a younger woman who seemed to be around the late lieutenant's age. Her eyes were red, and her face seemed slightly puffy. The woman held her arm, hiding what seemed to be some injury beneath a cover. As she sat patiently, a person tripped in front of her, bumping her slightly and causing her arm to move. During contact, the woman winced, closing her eyes as a small trickle rolled down her face. My eyes were about to move to the next person before someone tapped on my shoulder. "Are you ready?" My head turned, revealing Matt's smiling face. Nodding, he took me towards the exit of the building. We reached the door, where he looked at my feet. Quickly, he opened a small wooden box and pulled out something that seemed to fit around my feet. "Put these shoes on. They should fit." I grabbed the pane in my shoes and brought them to my feet. Why in the world would people wear these? Sighing, I balanced on one foot as I held the left one open before sliding my foot in. The shoe's feeling wasn't pleasant. It felt like my foot was rubbing against small rocks, but I guess it's better than actually walking on them. Taking a breath, I put on the second one, causing both my feet to feel cramped. Matt looked at me as I finished putting on the shoes. "Are you going to tie them up or not?" he asked. "Tie," I replied. The man's eyes opened in surprise, and his mouth was agape. He looked at me, then at the shoes, before finally calming down. Giving me a look of pity, he crouched down. He took my elegant foot into his hands for a moment, before doing some fancy loops with the strings the shoe had. With a final twist and pull, the shoe tightened. With it tightened, my foot felt even more restricted, yet more stable. Putting my foot back down on the ground, he took my other one, begging to tie that one as well. He did a loop, a throw, a pull, and a twist before it was the same as the last one. The surprising thing about tying was that it seemed so difficult, but Matt finished them both in under 30 seconds. With both of mine down, he moved on to his own, tying them faster than I could comprehend the steps he was doing. He gave up as he walked through the wooden front door, allowing me to see the town at eye level. My eyes scanned the area, and the massive trees stood behind the house, making them seem almost puny. Looking down, it was the first time walking on this hard material that did not hurt my feet. The path was solid gray rock, with pebbles of differing sizes littered across it. The path was lined with evenly spaced light posts, and right below them seemed to be the driest part, as the rain from the previous night had created massive puddles on the path. A big smile appeared on my face as a man carrying a bucket of some delicious food walked by. He spotted me and gave me a soft smile before stopping. "Care for a silberry, young lady," he said, grabbing one of the silberries from the bucket. The silberry was orange in color. It was slightly translucent, showing a purple inside. On top of it was a small stem that looked like it was attached to a few other silberries. Looking at the scrumptious-looking food, my head nodded quickly. "Yes, please," I said with a small bow. The man looked shocked for a moment. "You have very good etiquette, young lady. I would have found it hard to tell you apart from a noble if it weren't for your clothes," the man said, chuckling for a moment before handing me the silberry. Not really understanding what he meant, I thanked him and put the entire berry that was the size of my thumb into my mouth. Biting down, an explosion of flavor blasted through my mouth. It was extremely sweet, but as the purple core melted in my acidic saliva, a slight sourness numbed the sweetness. My mouth puckered for a moment before swallowing the silberry. "How was it?" the man asked. Looking at him, drool almost falling from my mouth. "Delicious," I said enthusiastically. The man laughed. "Good to hear. Hopefully they will sell well today, then," the man said, then turned away and walked down the path. He waved at me before turning a corner and disappearing deeper into the town. Frowning, my heart ached. "I wanted one more," I cried, sighing deeply as Matt told me to follow him. Chapter 28, Academies. We walked down the stone road, avoiding puddles as we came upon them. A few more people had stopped to say hi, but none had anything to offer. While walking, hard rocks poked into my feet, but with my shoes on, they did not pierce them. We walked for a few minutes through winding roads before reaching a section of the town that opened up into a circle. The path wrapped around before reconnecting to itself, and multiple small houses surrounded the stone road. Matt brought me to the side of the road, his tall figure leaning down slightly to meet my gaze. "Okay, so we are in the area with people who most likely will take you in. I'll do the talking, and you try to impress them, okay?" Nodding, Matt smiled at me. "Good, now let's do it." We approached a small house that was around 4 meters high. The outside was slightly molded, with the wood having a darker, wetter texture. The door seemed old, with rusted hinges. The door itself was cracked and seemed to bend inwards slightly. The house had only 2 windows on the front. The left one was cracked down the middle, while the one on the right had a bent frame. Looking through the window, I could not see anything within, as there were no lit lanterns, and the light from the sun was not enough, even with the help of my heightened perception. Matt reached the door first, knocking twice before putting his hand down. Standing there for a few moments, nobody answered. After another minute, Matt turned around, beginning to walk away. As he did, I felt a vibration in the ground using my earthen sense. "Wait," I said, grabbing Matt's shirt as he walked by me. Pulling him back forward, he opened his mouth to complain, but that's when a noise came from the other side of the door. A loud click echoed from the door before its handle turned slowly. The door flew open, revealing a man who must have been around the commander's age. Dark eyes, rough skin, smooth hair. "What do you want?" he asked aloud, seeming slightly angry. Matt quickly fixed his posture and approached the man eagerly. "Hi, sir. How has your morning been?" "Better before you woke me up," he scoffed. Matt's smile wavered for a moment before regaining its form. "I'm very sorry about that, but I have a favor to ask of you." He gave the man a slight bow. "Favor? What favor?" he questioned. "Well, you see here, this is a girl who was rescued from the bear hunt that ensued yesterday. She doesn't have a place to stay. The other members and I of the medical center would like to know if you are willing to take her in for a while until she can be properly accommodated." Matt asked, bowing even deeper, bringing his head down to his stomach. Standing up, he brought me in front, grabbing onto both of my shoulders. "Nice to meet you, sir. I am Luna," I said, with a small, innocent smile, bowing slightly as well. Matt looked at me, surprised for a moment, before regaining his composure. "Luna, huh? Very polite." He looked up, scratching his gruff, long beard. "Thank you," I spoke elegantly, bowing once again towards the man. "What's in it for me? Feeding another person costs quite a lot," the man asked Matt with a big, toothy smile. "Unfortunately, since the bear hunt, we are short on funds and we were hoping for a volunteer." Matt told the man, and as he did, the man's smile faded, turning into a mean frown. "Not interested," the man shouted, slamming the door in Matt's and my faces, making the entire house tremble and the glass crack even more. Matt bit his lip, turning his back to the house. "Next house," he basically shouted, storming off, me following close behind him. I wonder why the man said no. Matt walked quickly. His face was slightly red. Stopping for a moment, he breathed in and then exhaled hard. He looked back at me, smiling once again. "So, Luna, that's a very pretty name." "Thank you, I picked it myself," I told him, beaming slightly. Matt looked at me, slightly confused. "Picked it?" he questioned. Shoot, do people not pick their own names? What do I say? Did I expose myself? "Yeah, I couldn't remember mine, so I chose one instead," I said hesitantly, smiling a little too big, hoping that he believed my lie. "I see," he responded, sounding slightly sad. He began to walk again, heading for another house. "So why Luna?" he asked. Moving on from my slip-up, I cheerfully answered him. "Because I want to go up there on the day," I said, pointing up at the sky. Matt followed my hand, looking up as well. "It reminds me of space and the amazing things that it contains. Stars, the sun, other planets, and so many other amazing sights. But deep down, I chose it because it reminds me that no matter how small I am bigger than just my body. I can influence the very world as long as I work hard enough," I said, closing my hand that was pointing towards the sky. The words of the commander entered my mind. A giant smile was plastered across my face as Matt looked at me, smiling softly while nodding. "You're smart for your age. Did you attend an academy when you were young?" he asked as we continued toward the next house. Bringing my hand down and looking at him, I responded, "Academy." "You've never heard of an academy?" he asked. "No, what is an academy?" I replied. "Well, there are 3 types of academies: magic, warrior, and combined. Mostly only nobles can get into an academy, but if you are talented enough and have enough support, even a peasant can make it into one, but it won't be easy. Nobles always look down on the poor," he said. "First, magic academies are focused entirely on magecraft and developing your magical abilities. Apparently, you train under multiple masters and grow your complete understanding of magic. From what I've heard, many apprentices go to one to hone their skills before transferring to a combined academy or studying solely under their masters. That's all I really know about magic academies. If you want to find out more, you will have to ask Lady Leora. She is the only true mage in this small town." "Interesting, so it's like a place you go to train. I've heard of magic from the commander, and I'm pretty sure I witnessed him and Lady Leora use it, but what is it truly? Can I use it one day?" "What is magic?" I asked Matt. He looked at me and smiled enthusiastically. "Well, like I said before, Lady Leora is the expert, but I know some of the basics. Magic is a core element in this world. To use it, you control mana, which is the raw form of magic. The world is full of mana, but only a certain few can truly control it, and even if you can, the toll it takes on your body is dangerous. To do it, you have to pull the mana from the very fabric of this world and bring it within yourself." He stopped moving and breathed deeply, sending a chill through me. "Once you have enough, you release it and just imagine what you want to create." He spoke, opening his palm as a small fire appeared on it. My eyes opened in amazement as the fire raged silently in his hand. It flickered in my eyes. Suddenly, he closed his hand, extinguishing the flame. His arm trembled and his breathing was ragged. "You can create whatever you can think of, but there is one condition. It must be in the form of the element that you have a main or sub-affinity with, or it will be extremely less powerful. On the other hand, to make your spell even stronger, you can add a chant, which helps focus the magic into what you want it to become," he said. "Affinity?" I asked. "Mine is fire, as you saw, but each person has their own unique affinity, the most common being fire, nature, and water. Let's say I tried to create a ball of water, but I only have an affinity with fire. So there's a very low chance the ball would form, but even if it did, it would be far weaker than a ball of fire that I could create." He explained as a small ball of water formed in his hand, only to disintegrate into a puddle after a few seconds. This caused him to cough violently. "It also consumes much more mana trying to use an element that you do not have an affinity with," he continued, his body shaking even more. "How do you figure out what your affinity is? And does everyone only have one?" My mind was firing away. Magic was so cool. "Well, to start, the majority of people don't even have an affinity. It is around 1 in a million to be born with a major one. To have 2 is maybe 1 in 10 million, and to have 3 is 1 in 100 million. Personally, I have never heard of a person having more than 3, and even 3 may be a complete rumor. But on the upside, if you are lucky, you could have a main affinity and a sub one, which is an affinity that you are semi-capable of using with decent power and only moderate consumption." He sighed as he looked at his hand. "I was only born with fire. I'm grateful I am truly, but my passion is healing, and with just one main affinity, healing magic is not a possibility for me." His body slouched slightly before continuing to talk. "To find out what one's affinity is, for nobles, they usually have an elemental orb, which shows them exactly which affinities they have. For peasants, we have to find out by pure luck. For me, it came when a slime almost killed me. My fear ignited my magic, allowing me to escape the small creature. He looked at me, talking some more. Magic is hard to use without fully understanding it. That's why once a noble's child discovers their affinity, they are sent off to an academy where they can learn how to use it. I was lucky, having my magic come to me through pure emotion. For me, once I ignited my first flame, it was almost as if I had unlocked a sense that had been hidden within me. He brought his hand up, grabbing at nothing. I feel the mana around me, and pulling it is much easier than if it were still invisible to me. He paused for a moment. The last thing I know is that your body can only contain a certain amount of mana, which builds up inside you like a core. To increase what your core can handle and allow you to cast more spells with greater complexity. A mage must use magic continuously to level up their individual affinity, as well as level up their body. The problem with practicing is that recovery time can be very long without proper equipment and support, and leveling up is very dangerous. He began to laugh. But even if it's difficult, I believe magic is the best thing in the world. I hope you have an affinity, Luna, and if you have any more magic-related questions, go ask Lady Leora. She's the one who taught me all I know. He stopped talking, taking a breath as he was still recovering from the demonstration. I looked at him in awe. He was amazing, and magic was also unique. Closing my eyes, calming my mind, and focusing on the air around me, feeling the breeze and hearing the rustling of trees. For a moment, my mind went silent, and I felt at peace until Matt broke me out of the trance. The second type of academy is warrior academies, which are usually for nobles who were not born with an affinity or who have some skill related to weapons. It can also be for those who are more passionate about weapon arts. I am not familiar with these academies, but I understand people go there to refine their combat skills. Listening to him, I nodded, his words causing me to wonder. He mentioned skills. Were they the same as the ones I have? What are skills? I questioned. He looked at me, completely baffled. You must have really lost your memory. Everyone has at least one skill they were born with. You can see them by checking your system, which will display all the necessary information, such as your name, race, class, title, and skills. Your race is obvious. We are all humans, and your class will be filled once you have completed certain requirements. Classes usually gift you with a skill, but if you change classes, that skill and any of its evolutions will be lost. He looked like he was reading something that I could not see. Was it his system? Is mine invisible as well? Quickly, I willed my demon system to appear, and as I predicted, Matt did not move his gaze towards it. A title is something you earn by achieving something great. Each title has its own benefits, but they are based on the achievement that you accomplished. Finally, skills are the abilities you have. Many are regular, which means they give you unique abilities you can use. In rare cases, people can be born with intrinsic skills, which means they are built straight into their souls. Under certain conditions, skills can be earned through practice, such as basic swordsmanship or basic archery. Nodding excitedly at him, my eyes full of passion, he finished the explanation. Any more questions, or can I move on to the final type of academy? He asked me, slightly exhausted from all the explaining. You can continue, I said with a small smirk on my face. All right, good. The final type of academy is the Combined Academy, which incorporates both martial and magical instruction. Lady Leora told me that people went to these academies to prepare to become full-fledged mages and knights. There is a mix of students. Some classes focus solely on magic, and others on weapons and martial arts. He punched the air, moving his head side to side. The unique thing about these academies is that they have combined classes as well, where mages and warriors can learn together and even spar or have full mock battles. Lady Leora also said that these academies had the best masters and the most enjoyable events. I've heard that even the most wealthy nobles can't get enrolled unless they are truly talented, but I doubt that. Influence and power are everything in this world. Listening to him, my mind raced. That sounded amazing. Training to become stronger, fighting against peers, learning and growing, it all sounded amazing. My eyes met Matt's, causing me to smile brightly. I gave him a small bow. Thank you. Chapter 29. Home Troubles. Matt finished speaking about the academies, moving towards another house that seemed to be in better condition than the last one. It was the same size, quite small, but it was well kept, with no mold, the wood being in pristine condition. It had only one window on the right side of the home, the glass of which was completely intact. Inside, I saw slight movement before my earthen sense told me that there were 2 people inside at the moment. Matt approached the sturdy wooden door and knocked on it loudly. With a loud creak, the door opened slightly, revealing a man who seemed old but was still younger than the commander. "What do you want?" he asked. With my skill, I can tell that there was someone behind him. Matt answered him with a smile. "Well, the people of the medical center and I were wondering if you would be willing to take this girl in for a while until something else can be figured out." Matt bowed as he pushed me forward. "Good morning to both of you. It's a pleasure to meet both of you." "I am Luna," I said, acknowledging the man and the person who stood behind him, out of view. Giving the man a smile and a slight bow, the man turned his head back as if waiting for approval. After a moment, he shut the door fully before unhashing a lock that had kept the door closed for the majority of the way. Reopening the door, it swung quickly before stopping slightly before striking the wall. The man was quite large, towering over Matt. He must have been at least 6'6". He had deep brown hair with gray specks running through it and a big, bushy beard. He wore simple clothes, and his hands had rough skin with a few scars. Behind the man stood a woman who was slightly taller than I was, her wrinkled face standing out as a full gray head of hair fell over her green eyes. She seemed much older than the man, and she stood as if her body were at the point of exhaustion. "Nice to meet you, Luna. I am Ben, and this is my mother," he told me while pointing at the woman behind him. "As you can see, my mother is not in the best condition, so it would be very difficult for me to support the 2 of you," he said, while holding his mother's shoulder. Suddenly, Matt chimed in, speaking from behind me. "Actually, if you take her in, one of Lady Leora's apprentices, such as myself, will stop in once a week to examine and see that Luna is doing well. If you would like, we could take a look at your mother at the same time." The offer seemed to intimidate the man as he bent down and whispered into the man's ear. For a moment, it looked as if he was going to agree, until his mother began to whisper back. She coughed as she did, but the man's face turned from readiness to cold. "It is a wonderful offer, but I will have to refuse, as my mother has decided that she does not want to have the burden of a mere child placed upon us." Slowly, he ushered his mother back inside before closing the door slightly. As it was about to close, the man spoke once more. "I am sorry. It's an amazing offer, but my mother has decided against it. She wants to spend what little remaining time on me. I wish you luck, Luna." The man barked out quietly before fully shutting the door. Matt sighed as the man closed the door before moving on to the next house. This one was close, only being a few houses down. It was quite large, actually, having at least 2 floors, with windows lining the top and bottom. The wood was in decent condition, but not flawless, with some dark, drippy spots forming on certain logs. Knocking on the door, I could sense 3 vibrations coming from within, 2 small and 1 of average human adult size. With the 3 vibrations reaching the door, it flew open, and 2 small children rushed out, surrounding Matt and me. The children jumped around me, playing with a toy. "Wow, she's so pretty," the first child said. "Her hair looks so soft," the second commented before circling me again. In the doorway was a woman who stood almost a half-foot taller than me. She wore long, baggy pants, and beneath her eyes, massive black bags formed. Her skin was dark, and she had long, curly black hair that fell to her shoulders. Yawning, she looked at Matt and me before speaking. "What can I do for you too?" she asked. Matt began to open his mouth before being shut down by me. "Hi there, I'm Luna, and it's a pleasure to meet you," I told her with a slight bow, continuing after ensuring that she was paying attention. "Lady Leora and her apprentices were wondering if you'd be willing to take me in for a while until they can figure out what to do with me," I explained calmly. The woman rubbed her chin before turning to her children. "Mark, Philip, do you want a new sibling?" she asked them. Matt's and my heads shot towards the energetic kids, waiting for their response. They both looked at each other before both yelling at the top of their lungs. "No," they screamed. It was loud enough that I thought my ears were about to bleed. The woman looked back at us, sighing in disappointment. "I always wanted a daughter, but these two angels are my world, so I'm sorry. If they say no, I say no." She called her kids back inside before slowly closing the door, her dark brown eyes disappearing behind the wood. Matt bit his lip before turning away, moving us towards the next house. It was massive, made of beautiful wood and carved stone. People walked in and out of the building. There were so many that there was even a line out its doors. As we reached it, I noticed movement in the window, and in the next moment, a woman rushed out, grabbing my hands firmly. Oh my," she repeated, as she looked upon my body. "No flaws, no marks, she's gorgeous." She rolled up my shirt slightly before Matt stopped her. "Lorea, calm down," he said as he grabbed her wrist. "She's the best bitch that I have ever seen, Matthew. How much for her?" she asked. My eyes widened in surprise as she still held onto me firmly. "She's not for sale, Lorea. You already know this. Unless she is indebted to you, there is no way to control her like you do your other employees." She stared daggers at Matt before looking at me. "What's your name, dear?" the woman asked. My eyes examined her. She was much shorter than I was and seemed to be around Lady Leora's age. She had jet black hair and golden yellow eyes. She wore a beautiful outfit that showed off her best assets, and as she stood in the open, men in the line seemed almost to drool. I'm Luna," I stuttered out, slightly uncomfortable with the proximity of the woman. She smiled as I said my name. "Such a pretty name for a pretty girl such as yourself. You should come work for me. My establishment is always in need of more stars, and don't you worry, with a body like yours, you may make more than I do with just tips." She grinned. Seeing multiple gazes of people around me, I smiled awkwardly. "I'll think about it," I told her. The woman smiled. "Good, give it some thought." She finally looked at Matt. "So, what does an apprentice of that old hag, Leora, want?" He bit his lip before responding. "Well, you see, Luna here does not have a place to stay, and we were wondering if, somehow, we do not find a place for her. Maybe you would be able to take her in, but as a normal girl and not one of your employees." Matt bowed slightly, his cheek turning red from biting it. Lorea hummed for a moment before looking me up and down. "I can agree to that, but under one condition. If I convince her to work for me while she is with me, then you or any other person in this village can't try to take her away." She smiled greedily. Matt's face was beet red, and his hand trembled slightly. "Fine," he said. "If we do not find someone else, Luna and I will be back here tomorrow morning. Is that clear?" "Clear," the woman said. Matt began to turn away, but as he did, the woman grabbed his shoulder and pulled him down towards her, whispering into his ear. "I'll give you 10 silver if you can't find anybody else," she told him, shaking a pouch that seemed full. Matt wavered for a moment before his entire body began to quake. His face was plastered with anger, and he quickly pulled out of the woman's grasp. He slapped the bag away before turning and walking away. "Let's go, Luna," Matt yelled, signaling for me to follow. Looking back, I saw the woman frown for a moment before a wicked smile appeared on her face. She disappeared back into the big building. Matt turned a corner, and we left the area that contained the establishment. Matt looked at me, regaining his composure and smiling a soft, gentle smile. "Want to get some food?" he asked. With the words, I nodded rapidly and ran to match his pace. After a few more turns, we entered a small building, and the aroma almost brought me to tears. Around me were all kinds of food that I had never seen before. There were what seemed like berries of all kinds. I ran through the building, examining all the items it contained. On some of its shelves were red berries, with a light blue inside. Next to them were long green berries with a yellow core. Looking around, they all seemed delicious. I recognized some silberries on display in the corner, but the rest were a mystery to me. My smile was huge, and I almost seemed to glow with excitement. Matt watched me run around for a few moments before calling me over to the front of the building, where a man sat behind a wooden desk. "Tell him what you want," Matt said. "I want them all," I basically shouted, realizing what I did. I quickly covered my mouth. The man looked at me before he burst out laughing. The man was shorter than Matt, but much bulkier. He was bald but had massive eyebrows that framed his blue eyes. "I don't know if you can afford all that, little miss," the man bellowed, while still cackling. Matt looked at me. "Pick 3, Luna. Any that you want. It's on me." I frowned slightly as my options had been reduced to only 3, but as soon as I began to search for the ones that I wanted, my smile returned. There were too many amazing choices, and they all seemed very good. The only problem was that I was worried that I would waste one of my 3 choices on a berry that I don't like. Sighing, I picked up the nearest one. Its orange exterior was slightly transparent, its core deep purple, and it seemed to vibrate warmly. "What's the name of this one?" I asked. Chapter 30, Fruits and Running. "That's a sunvine peach," the man explained. "It's quite popular," he said. Thinking about it for a moment, Luna decided that the sunvine peach was going to be her first pick. "I'll have one then. Could you recommend any others for me?" Luna asked the man. The man stroked his beard for a moment before standing up and moving out from his desk. He walked by Matt, giving him a mischievous smile before picking up another type of berry. This berry was small, but had a beautiful palate. It was not translucent like the sunvine peach, but had a slight ember emanating from its surface. Luna's eyes fell upon the fruit, her pupils dilating slightly, the small red flame reflecting in her eyes. "What is it?" she asked. The man chuckled before speaking. "This is a cindercore, a rare fruit that grows in the Dwarven Kingdom. It has quite a kick, but it is very popular among the people of Alarion." He raised one eyebrow while holding the cindercore. "So what do you think?" he asked Luna. The small flame that emitted from the small fruit made Luna warm. The blaze twinkled like the sun in the sky. Watching the flame expand and then fall, she looked at Matt, searching for an answer. Matt looked at the girl, giving a small smile and then a slight nod. "I'll take that one too, please," Luna shouted. "Ha ha ha, amazing," the storekeeper chuckled aloud. "Well, young lady, you have one left to pick." Luna, smiling, quickly began searching the store, looking for any fruit that stood out to her. She passed multiple shelves, each with many amazing-looking fruits. "There are too many," Luna yelled inwardly while looking at a moonpear. Dropping the fruit back where she found it, she walked down the final aisle in the store. She searched each shelf and bucket of fruit, but none stood out to her. Looking back, she saw Matt and the storekeeper making conversation as they waited for her to pick out the final fruit. Sighing, she began scanning the store once again, searching for a fruit that interested her. After a few moments of disappointment, a small bucket in the corner of the shop caught her interest. Walking over to it, Luna's eyes ran over a small nameplate that was bolted to the bucket of fruit. Engraved on it was Midnight Veil Fruit. Her eyes fell upon the bucket, seeing that it was mostly empty, with only one remaining. Ho ho ho, the veil fruit, huh? That's an interesting one right there, and I thought I was out of them. The shopkeeper laughed aloud. Why is it interesting? Luna asked. Pick it up and see, he told the girl. Hesitantly, Luna reached down into the box. The fruit was a deep purple that seemed to absorb the surrounding light. As her finger brushed the fruit, her body went numb for a moment as a shivering cold ran up her arm and into the rest of her body. Her hair stood on end as small bumps appeared on her skin. The cold made her shiver, and it felt as if she were about to freeze solid. With her vision going black, a hand grasped her shoulder. The shopkeeper stood behind her, holding the cinder core. He brought the fruit closer to Luna's face, and with it, the cold seemed to fade. Her body still felt numb, but the heat from the cinder core evened out the cold. You felt the cold, yes? He asked Luna. Staring at him, she shook her head. The skin on that fruit can cause an extreme cold to spread through a person's body, but once the outer layer is peeled off, the inside is extremely delicious. Usually, most people would carry it with a bag and only hold it with thick gloves on, the man explained. Luna looked at the fruit in her hand, the cold still affecting her body even with the cinder core so close. How do I peel it then? Well, most buyers have their own way to do it at their homes, but others may also pay a certain person with the ability to do it. And luckily for you, I have the capabilities to do it for you, the shopkeeper told Luna with a smirk. Really? She asked excitedly. But then a frown appeared on her face as the man had said that she'd have to pay for it. Feeling guilty, she looked at Matt for a moment before speaking. Well, I don't want to make Matt pay more, so I'll find something else, she told the shopkeeper. The man chucked. Ha ha ha, there's no problem. It's on the house for today. You have brightened my day, young lady. The man smiled. He handed the cinder core to Luna and then headed towards the front desk. Reaching underneath, he pulled out a puffy glove before signaling Luna to approach him. As she walked over, the man reached out with an open palm. Quickly, Luna dropped the midnight veil fruit into his palm. With it, the lingering chill dissipated, and a nice heat entered her body. The cinder core seemed to glow brighter as the veil fruit was moved farther away from it. The man told the two of them to wait a moment while he went through a door, supposedly to peel the fruit. While waiting, Matt looked at Luna. You're not helping me out, picking some pricey options, he stated while laughing. After a few moments, the door in the back of the store opened again. The shopkeeper walked out holding the veil fruit. Its skin was completely gone, revealing a deep black circular shape. The man put the skinned midnight veil fruit on the counter, next to the sunvine peach. Here you are, young miss, the man said while opening a drawer in the counter. Okay, you have the sunvine peach, the cinder core, and the midnight veil fruit. Some pricey options, the man exclaimed with a grin. Looking at Matt, the shopkeeper held out his hand. That will be 8 copper pieces, please, he asked. For a slight moment, Luna saw Matt's face scrunch slightly before turning into a pained smile. A small leather pouch appeared from his pocket, his hand reaching in, scrounging for the 8 coins. After a moment, the copper coins clanged together as they fell into the shopkeeper's hand. Thank you kindly, sir, the shopkeeper said before waving us goodbye. Matt said nothing before leaving the store, quickly grabbing the 2 pieces of fruit on the counter. Luna followed behind, trying to keep up. As she reached the door, the shopkeeper's voice rang through the empty shop once again, causing her to halt and turn towards the big, bearded man. Be careful, young lady. It said the midnight veil fruits can attract demons and misfortune, he stated sternly. Luna's mind went blank for a moment as the word demon left the man's mouth. She stared blankly forward, seeming to the shopkeeper as if she were staring at an invisible existence. But in her eyes, purple words flooded her vision. Race, demon-born. Demons, Luna questioned hesitantly. The man stared at her, staring intently, before a slight quiver appeared in the corners of his mouth. Biwaha, you don't have to worry, miss. It's merely a superstitious rumor. The man bellowed while holding his stomach, slightly gasping for air. Demons aren't attracted to fruits, or else one would have appeared here a long time ago, so don't fret and just enjoy the fruit. Don't let it go to waste. That lad you're with seemed to have almost had a heart attack when he heard the price, the shopkeeper chucked. With a final goodbye, Luna left the shop, returning to a bustling street full of people. Matt was leaning against the building. His face seemed pained as he looked at his shrunken pouch of coins. As he saw Luna with the fruits, he smiled. What were you two talking about? He questioned. Luna, thinking for a moment, told him the minimum. Nothing, he just told me a joke, Luna stated. Nodding, Matt returned his pouch to his pocket and turned away while he began walking. While they walked through the town, people rustled through the small streets. Many were women who carried large bags full of food, clothing, and other small items. Many wore simple but pretty outfits. As I walked farther down the street, the people began to disperse, leaving the area very empty. Luna ate her fruit, savoring the delicious textures of each. The sunvine peach was very sweet and seemed to melt in her mouth. The cindercore was the next to be devoured, its spice almost burying Luna's tongue. And finally, the midnight veil fruit. Frost seemed to encase her entire mouth for a moment, small ice particles breaking off and falling into her mouth. The fruit almost seemed to hiss as she bit down once again, indulging in the fruit's amazing taste. With the final portion of the fruit disappeared into Luna's mouth, her shoulders slumped as she realized that there was nothing left. I want more, she grumbled. Matt turned for a moment, his fist clenched. You ate those really quickly, he said. Didn't savor them at all. He mumbled quietly enough that even Luna's heightened perception LVL-4 did not allow her to hear it. Walking behind the sulking man, Luna took in the environment, examining everything that she could see. The sun was high, and the sky was clear except for a few white puffy clouds. Trees swayed with the grass, and the wind blew her hair around. This world truly is amazing, she thought silently. Following Matt, she turned a corner until suddenly, a wall caused Luna to stop moving. She had run straight into Matt's back, causing her to take a few steps back. Why did we? Luna said before being cut off. SHHH, Matt demanded while placing his finger on his mouth. Luna stood there motionlessly while Matt seemed to be very focused on something. His eyes darted through the street and in every direction. There were no people in sight, and it seemed like they had walked into a less crowded area of the town. Quickly, he grasped Luna's hand and pulled her back out onto the street that they were walking on before. To Luna's surprise, the once bustling street now held no people. Matt pulled harder, increasing their speed from a walk into a jog. While moving, Luna's eyes looked through a window of a shop, and she saw as the clerk locked the door and closed the curtains. Matt's face, now pale, dashed faster through the street before coming to a sudden halt as two figures appeared from one of the many alleys alongside the road. The two people came into the light. Both were men, built and much bigger than Matt. The first was bald, with a smooth face. He was a large man with a massive gut. In his hand, he held a small dagger that shimmered as the sun bounced off of it. The second man was not as large as the first, but clearly had more muscle than fat. He wore a simple buttoned linen shirt with tight leather pants. The man had deep black hair and a rough stubble that made him seem older. In his left hand was a small shield, and in his right was a short sword. They began approaching us, massive smiles plastered across their faces. Within a second of them beginning to move, Matt dashed backwards, pulling Luna tightly behind him. He ran fast, coming to a nearby door and banging on it. "Help! We need help! Open the door!" he yelled out, but other than some rustling from the other side, no one responded. Cursing man tugged on Luna's wrist, causing it to bruise. Luna winced slightly but ran behind him. "What's going on?" Luna yelled out, asking Matt for clarity. "Nothing good," he replied, halting once again. The two they had encountered before were running towards them, the fatter man falling slightly behind the more muscular one. Luna tried to keep running away from those two, but was held back by Matt. "We have to run," Luna yelled. "No, not that way," Matt demanded, as he forcefully pulled her back. Luna looked at Matt and saw he was looking at something. Following his gaze, she saw that two other people appeared. One was a woman with bright red hair who wielded a whip. The other was a man with brown hair who was on the skinnier side and wielded a spear. As the two appeared, they cut off Matt and Luna's escape. They were being flanked from both sides. Luna's eyes widened as she sensed the bloodlust emanating from each person. She held Matt's hand tightly, trembling slightly. Sweat dripped from Matt's face, his breath was ragged, and with a deep breath, he put his hands up.